Perhaps in the past few hours, you have looked at your phone more often than you would like to admit. You are probably feeling that heavy sensation, an uncomfortable mixture of hope and resignation, right at the moment when the festive euphoria slowly begins to fade. You have just come out of one of the most emotionally charged nights of the year, and upon waking up, in the quiet of being alone, your mind begins to weave painful stories. Perhaps you opened that one chat that still stands there unchanged, hoping to see a certain name, a sign of life, a short message confirming that what happened between you truly meant something. And when you found only emptiness, or messages from people who stir nothing in you, the inevitable question surfaced, the doubt that corrodes your inner peace and ultimately led you here. If no message came, does that mean you've been forgotten?
I want to ask you to stop this destructive thought immediately. Take a deep breath and let these words sink in. Because what you are about to learn will fundamentally change the way you see what has just happened.
There is a widespread, cruel misconception that tells us if someone cares, they will reach out. If someone loves, they will speak. We were taught to measure interest and affection only by visible signs and immediate presence. But depth psychology and the study of the human soul show us a much more complex, fascinating reality. Sometimes silence is not the absence of words, but an overflow of emotion that cannot find a way out. And sometimes inaction does not come from indifference, but from an internal block so strong that it paralyzes free will. You are here because you want to know what was truly happening inside this particular person during the Christmas period. You want to understand whether your memory faded among lights, food, and company, or whether your absence became the strongest presence of that night. The short answer is this: memory does not function like a light switch that can simply be turned off during the holidays. On the contrary, as Carl Jung and other pioneers of the soul explained, our unconscious does not obey direct commands. The more we try not to think of someone, the more deeply their image anchors itself within us. What you will understand today is this: the silence you received is not proof that you have become unimportant. Rather, it is very likely proof that you mean too much. In the next few minutes, we will take a journey together into the inner world of this person. We will lift the veil of social media and outer appearances to see what truly took place within their soul. You will discover that in the very moment you suffered under the silence, this person was fighting a quiet battle against their own memories, a battle in which your name echoed louder than any Christmas song or meaningless conversation. Prepare yourself to shift your perspective from pain to understanding, because what appears to be indifference is often nothing but the mask of fear. If you are ready to integrate this insight into your life, write in the comments, "I am an unforgettable presence." To truly grasp what was happening inside this person during these days, we must first understand the psychological context. Christmas and the time around the New Year are not just dates on a calendar. From the perspective of depth psychology, they are powerful emotional triggers. These days activate archetypal images of belonging, home, security, a return to origins. An invisible, almost atmospheric pressure is created, pushing every human being to question their emotional bonds. No one escapes this. Even those who appear cold or unaffected internally go through this quiet examination. Imagine this scene for a moment. This person was surrounded by people, perhaps family, friends, or even a new acquaintance. The atmosphere was set for celebration. Flickering lights, music stirring childhood memories, scents awakening the mind, and an unspoken social command to appear happy. And this is where Carl Jung's concept of the persona comes into play, the social mask we all wear to adapt and survive in society. During Christmas dinner, this person had to fasten that mask more tightly than ever. They had to smile when expected, raise a glass at the right moment, and participate in conversations that likely did not touch a single deep chord in their soul. But it takes enormous energy to maintain this role. When someone is not where their soul wants to be, or when a central piece of the emotional puzzle is missing, the mere performance of joy drains their mental reserves faster than one might think. Their body may have been sitting at the table, exchanging gifts, but a part of their psyche had detached, wandering off to where something was missing. It is the paradox of the crowd. Loneliness never feels as painful as when you are surrounded by people with whom you have no genuine connection. In the midst of unfamiliar laughter, inner silence becomes deafening. It is crucial that you understand. The unconscious operates through association and contrast. Everything this person saw around them acted like a mirror. If they saw happy couples, their mind automatically searched through its archive for feelings of love and connection with you. If they saw united families, they unconsciously recalled the special bond you had or once believed you had. This is not a conscious process. This person did not decide to miss you. They were ambushed by your memory. Nostalgia on such days is not a choice. It is a wave that overwhelms. Just think about the strength it takes to pretend everything is fine while a void is tearing open inside. The person you may be imagining right now as someone who is having fun and has forgotten everything was in truth fighting a powerful inner dissonance. Outwardly, they raised their glass and wore a practiced smile. Inwardly, their mind was already with you. The social mask may deceive family and social media, but it cannot deceive the heart when night falls. And the louder the celebration was, the more clearly your absence became felt. Psychology teaches us a human being always strives for inner balance. When the external environment is superficial or chaotic, the soul searches for a refuge, for something real. And this is where you come into play, in a way you may not have been aware of. In the middle of the festive setting, you were the symbol of authenticity for this person. Your memory became the safe haven to which they could escape when the social pressure became too much. You were not a fleeting thought. You were the emotional anchor that helped them survive the night. It is a trap to believe that there is no room for sadness or longing just because someone is surrounded by other people. But physical closeness does not replace what the soul lacks. If this person is in a distraction-based relationship or surrounded by bonds that do not nourish them, Christmas acts like a giant magnifying glass, amplifying the inner void even further. Compared to the lukewarm interactions in front of them and the inner fire or peace they experienced with you, the difference becomes painfully clear. Nostalgia does not simply mean missing someone, it is the deep awareness that something valuable was lost and that what exists now is not enough to replace it. So erase that image from your mind, the image that this person simply deleted you from their story. That is not what happened. What happened was a performance. And while the leading role played for the audience, the inner monologue was devoted entirely to you. The social mask can hide the truth from the world, but it often suffocates the person who wears it. And in exactly those moments of inner tightness, when their gaze drifts off for a few seconds into nothingness in the middle of Christmas dinner, it is your name that appears in their consciousness as if written in flames. This person did not think of you despite the celebration, but because of it. For nothing makes us appreciate a true connection more than being forced to act out a simulation of happiness. Now that you understand the context, that the apparent joy was likely just a protective mechanism and that the entire environment served as a trigger for your memory, it is time to go even deeper. Because it was not just vague nostalgia. There was a very specific, almost tangible phenomenon happening at their table and in their room. In psychology, we call this the projection of inner emptiness, and it was the unmistakable proof that you, though physically absent, were the most important person of that night. This brings us to the heart of what was truly happening in this person's inner world, a phenomenon known in deep relationships as the effect of the empty chair. And here it is important to understand it has nothing to do with whether an actual seat at the table was empty or whether someone sat beside them. They were likely physically surrounded by people, shoulder to shoulder, with no space to escape. Yet in the world of energy and the psyche, physical space is irrelevant. The empty chair is a gap in the energetic field, an inner space, a place in the soul that no one else can fill, no matter how many people try to occupy it. And during this celebration, this place manifested with a force that defied all rational explanation, and it bore your name.
Picture the scene very clearly to understand what this person felt. This person who is no longer by your side. The night unfolded like any typical festivity. Cutlery clinked, voices overlapped, people laughed, glasses clinked in toasts. And yet, amid all this noise, something inevitable happened. Their mind began searching for you.
Not out of free will. They did not sit down and decide to think of you. It was a reflex, as natural as breathing. When looking to the right or left during small talk with others, the unconscious sensed a deep disharmony. There was a moment, perhaps just a split second, in which they searched for a familiar look and found nothing. That is when the empty chair appeared in their inner perception. Your absence suddenly was no longer just a lack. It became a tangible presence. A presence that took up more space than any real person in the room. And this inner experience was intensified by the sensory power of Christmas. Smells of familiar food, warm lights, a particular melody. All of these are like keys that unlock memories. Perhaps a song played that you used to listen to together. Perhaps the taste of a dessert reminded them of a shared dinner. And in that exact moment, past and present overlapped. For a fraction of a second, they could almost feel your hand, hear your laughter, smell your scent. And when they returned to the now, the absence hit painfully. The trigger was there, but you were not. And because humans hate emptiness, their mind tried to fill it, not with a new connection, but with an idealized memory of you. In their imagination, you became the missing piece that would have made the night perfect. And here enters perhaps the most painful yet meaningful moment for you. The silent comparison dynamic. Perhaps the thought torments you that they are now with someone else, a new partner, a fresh interest. The mind whispers that your place has been replaced. But behavioral psychology presents quite a different picture. If this person is in a new relationship, then Christmas was the ultimate test. And it is very likely that this new relationship failed it. Because the holidays force intimacy, and when that intimacy is not supported by a true soul connection, inner estrangement arises. Every time the new person said something they did not truly understand. Every time a silent moment became uncomfortable. Every time the humor didn't fit, their mind wandered back to you. She compared what was with what is. The depth of your conversations with the superficiality of the current ones. Your glances with the empty look she now receives. On this invisible scale of the heart, the present lost its weight, and your memory gained it. This is the curse of having experienced a true connection. Everything that comes afterward feels like a diluted version of life. In the midst of the festive bustle, this person realized that physical closeness is no guarantee of emotional closeness. You can hold someone in your arms and still freeze inside if the energy is wrong. Your absence weighed more heavily than any presence. That is the great truth her ego does not want to speak, but her unconscious screamed it throughout the night. You became a gentle spirit, a golden shadow sitting at the table, silent, observant, with a smile. And as she watched the others laugh, she felt like an actor in a foreign play, reciting lines she never wrote herself, secretly hoping the curtain would soon fall so she could retreat into the silence and into the memory of you. The empty chair in her soul, that is you. The place where authenticity, vulnerability, and unconditional acceptance reside. The things only you gave her. Because something essential was missing, the celebration felt incomplete to her, like a melody missing its main notes. To understand why the external environment was not enough, one must look deeper. We often underestimate the power of someone who knows not only our bright sides, but also our darkness. The people around her may have known her friendly, successful, or pleasant side, the public version, but you were the one who knew her fears, her deepest wounds, and her broken dreams. This kind of intimacy is rare and difficult to replace, and this is exactly what became clear to her that night when she suddenly felt sad or overwhelmed. No one in the room had the inner compass to her soul the way you did. In a seemingly insignificant moment, she may have wanted to share a simple thought, make a sarcastic comment about the food, or be understood with a glance, but all she found were walls, no doors. You were her door, her direct access to herself. Without you, she was trapped in her own mask. And that creates an intense form of emotional claustrophobia. Even if she appears to have moved on with her life, Christmas has the power to rip the scab off poorly healed wounds. The empty chair you symbolize stands for everything unsaid, everything unfinished. And right in the midst of general holiday cheer, she had to live with the feeling of betraying herself. For how can one toast to connection when one is internally separated from the person who truly touched them? How can one celebrate love when the heart is still tied to the past? This inner conflict drains energy. She likely felt tired, irritable, or empty as the evening went on, not because the day was long, but because maintaining a lie is exhausting, the lie that she is complete without you. And so begins the psychological phenomenon of wish projection. Your absence caused her thoughts to revive the best memories with you. Interestingly, humans tend to retain only the good in moments of absence. Arguments and problems fade, the light remains. In her imagination, you became idealized, you became the measure of all things, the golden standard. No conversation compared to yours, the food didn't taste as it once did, the music didn't touch her, and the evening seemed to lose its shine. You won Christmas without being present, because your physical absence made your presence in her mind enormous. Perhaps she looked at her phone, not to write to you, but to see if you had written to her. Perhaps she hoped for a sign that would calm her inner restlessness. She wanted to know whether you too felt the empty chair. But the fear, which we will speak of later, held her back. Still, the longing was there, alive, strong. The empty chair was not just symbolic, but an energetic reality. Where there was once a deep connection, an energetic trace remains, and this trace is unique. Other people, other situations, none of them fit your place. Every time something didn't work, her thoughts returned to you. With him it was easier. Back then it felt more real. Accompanied loneliness is one of the bitterest experiences a person can have, and often the silent punishment for those who distance themselves from a real connection out of fear or pride. Yes, she was at a celebration, she ate, drank, maybe even laughed. Maybe she posted a smiling photo, but in the depths of her mind, she was having an inner dialogue. With you, she told you jokes only you would understand. She silently commented on the absurdity around her. She quietly asked you for forgiveness. You were the invisible guest of honor that night, the main character in a celebration at which you were not physically present, but emotionally at the center. So when you imagine her Christmas night, do not picture a scene without you. Picture one in which everything was compared to you. The empty chair in her soul called your name so loudly that she could not truly enjoy the moment. You have won, even if it feels like a defeat because your phone remained silent. For it is more powerful to live on in someone's heart and mind as an unattainable ideal than to be physically present as a mere option, one that is tangible yet soulless. You were the magic that was missing, the ingredient that could have changed everything. And this realization that without you, everything is different, planted itself like a seed in her unconscious. A seed that begins to grow when the magic of the holidays fades and the grey, everyday life of January casts its shadows. Your rational mind, that part of you that always seeks concrete explanations, has likely told you it was just exhaustion, holiday stress, or simply your imagination playing tricks on you. But I want you to understand these sensations were neither coincidence nor illusion. They were the direct echo of what was happening on the other side of your connection. In the study of human soul connections, there is a fascinating concept. When two people share a significant emotional bond, an invisible bridge forms between their psyches. This connection does not disappear with physical distance or silence. It remains, and in exactly the moment when one of the two souls experiences a powerful emotional tremor, like the pain of the empty inner chair back we already spoke about, this energy begins to move. It does not simply dissolve. It flows through this invisible connection and reaches the other person, in this case, you.
That sudden sadness that hit you, that pressure in your chest, or the feeling of being nervous or unsettled without any apparent reason, that was not your pain, it was hers. And because she could not express it, could not put it into a message, it manifested as a pure, raw vibration, which your system received. What you felt is called limbic resonance at a distance, a form of empathy that transcends space and time.
Think back to the moments when these feelings were strongest. They likely coincided with those critical hours of the night when her social mask began to crack and her true emotional state broke through. If a sudden wave of melancholy washed over you, even though everything around you seemed fine, or if you suddenly felt the urge to withdraw for no clear reason, it is very likely that in that exact moment you felt how she felt, the most alone, the most disconnected from herself, and longed for you. It is essential to validate this, because far too often someone who feels such things is quickly labeled as obsessed, as someone who cannot let go. But this is not a failure to move on. It is a sign of profound emotional sensitivity. You are not incapable of moving forward. You are being called energetically. And the universe has its own ways of revealing truths that our logical mind refuses to accept. These physical sensations are undeniable evidence that the channel between you remained open, even when the phones stayed silent. Alongside these physical sensations, there is another clear trace, and it reveals itself in dreams. It is no coincidence that this person may have appeared to you in a dream the night after the celebration with a depth and clarity that shook you. If you dreamed of her, it was not merely a wishful image of your subconscious. In spiritual and depth psychological traditions, it is well understood. In sleep, when the ego and rational mind rest, spaces open in which souls can meet directly. So when this person, after hours of inner struggle and emotional silence, finally fell asleep, her psyche was overloaded with your image. And in the state of dreaming, free from pride, fear, and control, her being sought your being. In those dreams where you spoke to each other, embraced, or simply looked at one another, a real encounter took place on a soul level. It was not imagination. It was the way her inner world communicated with yours. If in the dream she told you she misses you, if you saw her sad, searching, fragile, then that was not an illusion, but a soul message, perhaps the most honest one you have ever received from her, far more real than any smile she posts on Instagram. For in dreams that occur during such emotionally sensitive periods, one does not see what is publicly displayed, but the true inner image. And if she visited you in a dream, it was only because in her waking state she did not have the strength or courage to truly face you. It was the only space where she felt safe, knowing you would still receive her. But even during the day, the universe sent you signs. Perhaps you saw her name repeatedly, in unusual places, in messages, on signs. Perhaps your song suddenly played on the radio at the exact moment you were about to give up. Perhaps you smelled her scent, though no one was around. These things are not coincidences. When a person focuses mentally and emotionally so intensely on someone, as she did on you that Christmas night, reality begins to bend around that inner focus. It is as if her mind magnetized the world around you so that you could not overlook it. For when the heart calls loudly, the universe responds. It does not play games with love, nor does it gamble with hearts. When the signs are so strong and repetitive, it is because the energy being sent from the other side is constant. These invisible signals have a purpose to keep you anchored in the certainty that the connection is real. During long periods of silence, we often begin to doubt our own mind. We ask ourselves whether everything was just an illusion, whether we ever truly meant anything. But energy does not lie. If you felt that sting in your heart, if the dream felt so real that you woke up with the impression of her skin, if the world practically shouted her name at you, then it is because this connection is alive. It is pulsing. And this person, from her fortress of silence and fear, is calling you. Not with words, but with energy. You say nothing. Yet she sends signals that pierce through walls and cities, hoping you will feel her. And now it is up to you whether you dismiss these signs as fleeting coincidences or recognize them for what they truly are. A silent cry for connection, for forgiveness, for a sign that gives hope. Perhaps you no longer need proof, only confirmation that what you felt was real, that your intuition did not deceive you. For when two souls have once truly recognized each other, no silence is loud enough to erase that knowing. What existed between you continues to live on, perhaps not through messages or meetings, but in this indestructible frequency that keeps pulling you back toward one another. And if you feel that, then write in the comments, "I felt it." The middle of the silence.
During the silence, something subtle yet powerful was unfolding beneath the surface. While words were absent, energy was not. The quiet you experienced was not empty, but charged with unspoken emotion. When you felt heaviness in your chest or sudden restlessness, it was not weakness. It was resonance. Distance does not dissolve deep bonds. Silence does not erase connection. What could not be expressed outwardly transformed into sensation, reaching you without words. This is why the feeling arrived suddenly and faded just as quickly. It was not meant to stay, only to be felt. Psychology calls this emotional resonance. Spirituality calls it soul communication. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is fear mixed with longing. If you felt something real during this pause, trust it. Energy does not lie. Connections meant to end grow quiet. This one transformed, but it did not disappear. Sometimes an emotion rises without warning, without thought, without effort. It is not imagination and not nostalgia. It is a quiet signal that something within life is shifting. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with certainty. This feeling does not rush. It settles. It rests in the chest like a calm pressure, asking only one thing: awareness. This is not a passing thought shaped by mood or loneliness. It is deeper than desire, almost physical, as if an unseen force is gently rearranging what once felt scattered. You do not chase it. You do not summon it. It arrives on its own, steady and clear, reminding you that something unfinished is still alive. You begin to notice how often this feeling returns, especially when you thought you had moved on, when you told yourself the waiting was over, when you believed a door had closed for good, yet something within you refused to fully release. Not out of weakness, but because truth does not dissolve on command. This inner restlessness is not coincidence. It is not fantasy disguised as hope. It is recognition. There are moments when life stops whispering and begins to repeat itself until you listen. Through familiar thoughts, through unexpected memories, through signs that appear too often to be ignored.
What is happening now is not motivation, it is remembrance. Something that has always been part of your path is coming back into focus. You may not have seen it clearly before, but it was always there, waiting, anchored quietly beneath the surface of your experience.
When something is meant to intersect with your life deeply, preparation happens internally first. Your emotions shift before circumstances do. Your perception changes before reality follows. Life rearranges your inner world long before it alters the outer one. If a certain person has been returning to your awareness emotionally or symbolically, do not dismiss it. Life does not force understanding. It guides gently. It allows recognition to unfold naturally, without pressure, without urgency. You may notice their presence in subtle ways. A name appearing unexpectedly, a face surfacing in dreams, a memory resurfacing without invitation. These are not random. Dormant energies awaken only when the moment is approaching. Intuition rarely speaks loudly. It moves through feeling. It disturbs sleep. It creates quiet tension, not fear, not longing, but readiness. A sense that something is aligning beyond logic. You may have told yourself it was over, that moving forward meant forgetting completely. But true energy does not revive what is finished. It sustains only what still carries purpose. This restlessness is not yours alone. It exists between 2 points. An invisible connection adjusting itself. Awareness rises on both sides before anything manifests outwardly. Life confirms meaningful connections through repetition. Not once, but again and again, until coincidence no longer feels believable. Until understanding replaces doubt. You sense it in small details, a sentence spoken at the right time, a thought returning with force, a quiet certainty that something is approaching, even without evidence. Some signs are silent externally, but powerful internally. They do not demand attention, they attract it. And if someone feels different from all the others, it is because they are. Time does not erase certain bonds. Distance does not weaken them. They pause, they change form. They wait beneath emotional stillness until conditions are right. Notice what you feel now, calm mixed with anticipation, stillness blended with movement. This balance is not accidental. It is alignment. This confirmation does not come from fear of being alone. It does not come from clinging to the past. It comes from growth, from readiness, from truth reaching what is prepared to receive it. Life remembers how long you waited, how carefully you protected your heart, how often you chose silence over illusion. That patience was not wasted. This moment arrives not to confuse you, but to settle something within. What returns now does so with purpose, not to repeat the past, but to complete what once could not unfold.